Unit 2 Emerging Trends in Organizational Behavior. 2.0 Introduction. You might wonder whether how can the work environment influence the performance of employees as well as the organization's performance? In that case, it is important for you to understand that the characteristics of the organizational system and formal-informal dynamics at work are important environmental factors that influence people's behavior. In order to both manage people as well as to understand work behavior, managers keep continually upgrading all aspects of their businesses, and especially the human side of the enterprise. And this is where organizational behavior, OB, comes in. The field of organizational behavior concerns itself with the study of the behavior of individuals and groups in the context of organizations. In this unit, we will examine the field of organizational behavior, its definition and goals. At the end of this unit, we will also shed some light on the important characteristics of the field of OB today. 2.2 What is an organization? Organization may be defined as a consciously coordinated social unit, composed of two or more people, that functions on a relatively continuous basis to achieve a common goal or set of goals. Organizations have the following 5 important features. 1. Organizations are artifacts. Organizations are not natural entities like living beings but are brought into existence by human beings. 2. Goal-directed, as the above definition makes it amply clear that organizations are created to serve some purpose. This, however, does not mean that everyone in the organization has a common goal, or even that everyone is aware of and understands the organizational goals. 3. Social entities. According to the definition, organizations are composed of 2 or more people and as such are social entities. 4. Structured activity. In order to achieve the purpose or goals of an organization, it is required that human activity be deliberately structured and coordinated in some way. Hence usually there are identifiable parts or activities in an organization. 5. Nominal boundaries. Generally speaking, it is possible to identify nominal boundaries for an organization. This refers to consensus regarding who or what is a part of the organization and who or what belongs elsewhere. This in no way means that the organization is isolated from its outside. Remember the organization as an open system. 2.3 Organizational Psychology and Organizational Behavior. A related subfield of industrial/organizational psychology is organizational behavior. There are obvious similarities and not so obvious differences between organizational psychology and organizational behavior. The latter will be dealt extensively in the next unit. Moorhead and Griffin define organizational behavior as the study of human behavior in organizational settings, the interface between human behavior and the organization itself. It is in the last part of the definition, the organization itself, that we can see the difference between the two fields. Organizational behavior is concerned not only with individual-level behavior within organizations, but also with macro-level processes, such as organizational strategy, structure, and change. Organizational psychology is also interested in macro-level processes, but only to the extent that it impacts the individual behavior. Herein lies the key difference. Organizational behavior is more eclectic in its approach. Drawing approaches heavily form a variety of disciplines like management, sociology, economics, anthropology, labor relations, etc., while organizational psychology draws mainly from subfield within psychology. Those who specialize in organizational behavior tend to de-emphasize the individual approach and focus more on studying the system in which individual behavior occurs. According to Smithers, whereas industrial and organizational psychology tends to move from the study of the individual to the organization, organizational behavior moves from the organization to the study of the individual. Having said this, it is important to note that despite conceptual distinctions, the work of these two specialties in the real world becomes quite similar. 2.4 Goals of organizational behavior. There are some goals of organizational behavior which are as follows. 2.4.1. Describe. The first goal is to describe systematically, in an objective non-prescriptive manner, often in minute detail, how people behave at work under a variety of conditions. 2.4.2 Understand. A second goal is to understand why people behave as they do. Imagine how frustrating it would be for managers if they could talk about behavior of their employees, but not understand the reasons behind those actions. 2.4.3 Predict. An important reason behind understanding behavior is that it should help managers to predict behavior in various situations. It is often said, the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. Armed with knowledge about human behavior in organizations, managers should, for example, be able to predict which employees might be committed and productive or which ones might be counterproductive. This would help them to take preventive actions. 2.4.4 Control. The final goal of OB is to control and develop human behavior at work. Once we know what happens, why it happens and what is likely to happen in the future, we can exercise some control over it. Every organization has specific goals such as certain levels of profits, customer satisfaction, public responsibility, and so on. It is the job of the management to mobilize and coordinate the human, technical, economic, and informational resources available for the purpose of achieving such organizational goals. Managers need to be able to achieve such goals through the actions that they and their employees take, and organizational behavior can help managers meet these goals. 2.5 Organizational behavior in the Indian context. OB made its first appearance in the Indian setting around the 1960s. The reviews of literature identified three phases in the evolving nature of OB in India. 2.5.1 Replication. Initially, Indian studies replicated almost all Western theories, concepts, and methods showing their universal validity. Inconsistent findings were simply brushed aside and attributed to lack of rigor in research design, improper methodology, and so on. However, as the number of such inconsistent findings kept increasing, Indian culture was brought in as an explanation. For e.g. Mead replicated Lippitt and White's study to demonstrate that because Indian culture is authoritarian leader may be more effective than a democratic one. 2.5.2 Disenchantment. As inconsistent findings kept mounting, Indian scholars began to get disenchanted with Western theories and models. For instance, Maslow's need hierarchy was not found to hold true in Indian organizations. The two-factor theory given by Herzberg also did not receive much support. Theory Y also did not seem to characterize Indians because Indians view work as a duty to be performed for the sake of one's family. There consists a culture of aram, which roughly means rest and relaxation without being preceded by hard and exhausting work. 2.5.3 Integration. Gradually, an amalgamative approach emerged that attempted to integrate Western and Indian contents and processes of organizational behavior. This resulted in a number of streams of OB that tended to get integrated in varying degrees. Chakraborty, for instance, enumerated some of the idealized Indian values rooted in the ancient psycho-spiritual thoughts, such as chitta shuddhi, purification of mind, self-discipline and self-restraint, etc. He suggested that these psycho-spiritual values have a normative role in transforming work at organizations. In contrast, some Western concepts were found to be relevant in the Indian context as well. For instance, the psychoanalytic framework has been used to understand the Indian psyche, culture, society, and healing traditions. In sum, OB in India has attempted to identify the functional ideas of Western origin and integrated them with indigenous ones. 2.6 Importance of organizational behavior. Contemporary organizations and their environments are characterized by change. Changing times always pose a challenge for people and organizations. Too much change may lead to chaos, too little change may be stifling and may cause stagnation. Knowledge and understanding of OB during such dynamic times is particularly important for those who manage or even aspire to manage. For such people, a vital part of performing their roles effectively is understanding human behavior in an organizational context. Theories about OB help managers understand how humans and organizations behave, help them make good business decisions, and guide them about actions to take or refrain from taking. In particular, knowledge of organizational behavior equips managers to deal with four critical challenges. 1. Increasing globalization. 2. Increasing diversity of organizational workforce. 3. Continuing technological innovation with accompanying need for skill enhancement. 4. Demand for ethical behavior at work. The topics studied in OB involve managers and other employees that are concerned with the efficient operation of an organization in a rapidly changing world. The scope of OB includes topics such as the formal and informal workplace, employee needs and motivation, leadership, interpersonal relations and group dynamics, communication, the work environment, organizational design, delegation of authority, change and change management, creation of a harmonious climate for employee-employer relations, conflict resolution, organizational development and effectiveness, organizational health, stress and its management. In addition to managers, all of us are also inevitably involved in organizations of some sort throughout our lives. In addition to work organizations, our society is made up of many other kinds of organizations, ranging from governmental, non-governmental, political, religious, educational, military, health, and social organizations. Knowledge of organizational behavior is important as it helps us gain an understanding of how an organization functions, how it affects our behavior, and how we, in turn, affect the behavior of others. To understand this context is part of understanding the world in which we live, and this underlines the relevance of OB. 2.7 Contemporary issues and challenges. Organizations are now facing newer issues in dealing with the behavior of the employees and challenges to survive in the ever-changing globalized market. They are paying greater attention to the organizational environment, interpersonal relationships, wider society, governmental and international developments. Let us discuss about these issues and challenges in detail. 2.7.1 Gender discrimination and sexual harassment. Discriminating employees on the basis of their gender is a still existing phenomenon in many organizations. For example, women are still not given higher positions in organizations. Gender sensitization is a very crucial aspect, and the employers as well as the employees need to be aware of its significance. The issue of gender discrimination needs to be dealt with an urgency to maintain the motivation and commitment of the employees and productivity of the employers. Sexual harassment is also an issue which needs to be avoided or discouraged in organizations. In India, it was in 1997 in the landmark case of Vishekha vs. State of Rajasthan and others, that sexual harassment was identified as a separate illegal behavior. All this has led to the need for greater accountability for the organizations. 2.7.2 Quality improvement and total quality management. Any organization has to continuously strive to find out new ways to meet the need and expectations of the clients, customers, and society. In order to meet the challenge of continuous quality improvement, they are implementing programs like total quality management and re-engineering programs that require extensive employee involvement. Total quality management is an approach which is based on managing customer satisfaction through continuously improving the organizational processes. Following are the components of total quality management, TQM. Priority and intense focus on the customer. Concern for continuous improvement of organizational processes. Enhancing and continuously improving the quality, technology, and structure of the organization. Accurate measurement. Empowering the employees. 2.7.3 Improving skills. As discussed in the above point, that organizations have to continually improvise upon technological, structural, and environmental changes to meet the challenges of the market. For this, the employees need to be trained to possess the required skills to adapt to those changes and meet the goals of the organization. Therefore, it is a challenge for the organization to identify the training needs and then plan a series of training and development programs, career development programs. Induction and socialization. 2.7.4 Workforce diversity. With the increase in the recruitment of heterogeneous workforce belonging to different age, genders, communities, culture, and different societies, it becomes a challenge for the organization to manage the diverse workforce. The employees try to retain their cultural identity, values, and lifestyles, even if they have to follow a common norm of the organization. Therefore, it becomes a challenge for the organization to accommodate the diverse workforce without hurting their values. 2.7.5 Globalization. Globalization is a phenomenon which has promoted trade and business at international level. The organizations have transformed to multinationals and have branches in different countries. Managers of multinationals confront a number of challenges because they have to deal with employees of different countries. In order to meet the demands of the changing societies, the organizations are continuing their business operations at a larger distance. Different locations and climatic conditions. Maintenance and retention of the employees belonging to different nations becomes a challenge for them. 31. 2.7.6 Employee empowerment. The researches have shown that decentralizing the power and responsibilities leads to more productivity of the organization. This can happen if the responsibilities are given to the employees. The main issue of delegating more power and responsibility to the employees is that it gives them freedom to decide their own schedules, operations, procedures, and the method of solving their work-related problems which might not match with others and generate conflict. 2.7.7 Ethical dilemma. It is a challenge for the organization to curb unethical practices like leaking confidential information for personal financial gain, social loafing, etc. to maintain its reputation in the globalized market. 2.7.8 Change management. Managing change is also one of the challenges of organizations. They have to continuously innovate and update themselves for their survival. They need to be flexible, keep on improving their quality, be competitive and capable to manage change. 2.7.9 Work-life balance of the employees. The organization have to be too considerate about the employees' family members and personal related issues also, in order to maintain the commitment and motivation of the employees. This issue has been tried to be met by providing flexible working hours, compensation management, leave benefits, etc. Yet, it is difficult for the organization to fulfill the commitments to home, spouse, children, parents, and friends of each of the employee. February 7, 10 Digital world. The current situations have posed a challenge for each organization to transform their mode of work, data, and filings into the electronic and digital mode. Having a sound internet connection, software, and computer facilities have become a compulsory component for their survival. Also, training employees to work through digital mode is also a matter of concern of the organization. 2.8 Let us sum up. In this unit, we have discussed a brief overview of the field of organizational behavior. You were informed about the three phases that have been identified in the evolving nature of OB in India: replication of Western theories and concepts, 2. disenchantment with them, and 3. integration of Western and Indian concepts of OB. OB is a particularly important field in contemporary times for managers and others who are concerned with the efficient operation of an organization in a rapidly changing world. At the end, the contemporary challenges and issues of the organizations towards managing human behavior were discussed. Organizational psychology may be defined as a scientific field that studies individual and group behavior in formal organizational settings. Historically, organizational psychology was slower to develop than the industrial side of the field. Today, the fields of industrial and organizational psychology have combined into a relatively newer field of industrial/organizational psychology, IO psychology. The industrial side is more individual-oriented, while organizational side covers group and intergroup issues. Organizational behavior, in contrast, has an even more macro focus, emphasizing the system in which individual behavior occurs. Some of the topics that are addressed in organizational psychology include motivation, job satisfaction, organizational commitment, organizational justice, leadership, group behavior, work stress, organizational culture and development, productive and counterproductive behavior, and work-life balance.